Good afternoon, good evening. Today is Friday, October 4th, 2024. Our goal here is to review the market generated information in a holistic fashion. We're intimately following the auction's narrative of both ES and NQ. If we have time, we'll theorize and add additional commentary towards the end. There is a recording of the non-farm payroll release, the first 15 minutes, and the same typical recording that we'll do for RTH. So please check it out when you have time. All right, perfect. Let's get started. So, with our narrative and our summary questions, where is market coming from and what is price trying to accomplish today? Today was non-farm payroll. Again, we do have that plotted. So we'll look at that in details a little later on. But primarily the non-farm payrolls, looking out for geopolitical tensions, and just like a few other macro-related items. There was nothing really going on for earnings. This is for next week. We do have the banks on Friday, so that's something to be on the lookout for sure. All right. Again, this is the end of the week. So the monthly candle started here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So very much going to the downside. But notice that we end our week essentially sideways. Given all this hoopla, not really much has changed. I mean, ideally, the goal for the buyers for today, they wanted to ideally make a higher high and make a higher low. Looks like that's what they had accomplished. Do remember all this is still within this candle from Tuesday, which was the beginning of the month. Same goal was for the NQ. Wanted to build volume, higher high, higher low, but we're still within this Tuesday candle. All right, looking at the NQ on the daily, we had an increase of volume and the delta is still negative, with the buyers having the advantage regarding delta with a 4K maximum and about 1400 minimum. We finished less than negative 1,000. So somewhat balanced for the delta. Probably a good mixture. I believe it was positive in the beginning. You had some selling pressure that kind of came in and brought it down. Buyers ended up pushing it back up. I'm assuming some of this may be new money buyers and some of these shorts from down here that are covering for the past couple of days. Again, same situation for the ES with 64 points of range and a slight increase of volume, and sellers are still really putting a lot of effort in. Now, what results are they getting? They're not really getting too much. It seems like they're getting squeezed from Thursday, Wednesday, and Tuesday, squeezing back up through this candle, eating up some of the singles and the low volume that traded on Tuesday. And then just one more note for the dailies. Um, Again, Bulls have been having control, on the highest time frame as always, on the intermediate as well. If you've been following the homework, we haven't said anything about the Bears having control on a daily. Yeah, this is definitely some nice momentum. We get three closes below the 5 SMA on the daily, but it seems to be a bit short-lived. All of that was relative to above the half point of this bull candle on the 19th. So again, while we're stuck in a range from this Tuesday beginning of the month, looking back, we're still within this impulse candle and building volume higher and staying above. So this is why the buyers just wanted a higher high and a higher low. So intermediate bulls and on a daily, this is all back into bull control. Um, as long as they stay above this 50%, and that's for the S&P 500. And in the same context for the NQ, believe it or not, even though they're a bit weaker, even where they close today is over the this intermediate structure that we've been looking at from August and September. So seeing how the S&P 500 actually performed, we can see they're all up almost a percent. And then just jumping out the board, the leaders being the finances, the banks today, 2%, 3.5%, so on and so forth. Even Bank of America's up 2%, Wells Fargo. It's nice. Credit cards are doing pretty well, about 0.5%. This is really good from the financials, being followed by tech and human discretionary. Sorry. consumer discretionary, and then communication services. So the fact that we had the heavy hitters really pushing hard with, healthcare unchanged basically, this is nice to see the heavy hitters really putting in some work today. So this was definitely a risk on day. Given the risk on nature for the non-farms payroll, we had some good data, and then the major players got money pushed over to their sector. So it's nice to see. Looking on a 5-day frame, the only positives that we see are actually utilities and communications, with of course energy, given everything that we've been seeing from the Middle East. So say what you will about this. This is definitely interesting. Again, we did move sideways essentially for the whole week. All right, we'll look at the market profile. I just wanted us to have some really good context there. These are the singles that was created from the non-farm payroll. We have this for the ES and the NQ singles through here. We did this in real time, and they ended up eating these up. So we're done with those. So they really cleaned up their structure. So we ended up shooting up, testing lower, didn't make a lower low, and then we finished near the highs. Again, we'll look at that shortly. Multi-distributed profile, kind of just jagged across the board. Merging into the weekly candle, you can see the majority of the volume is a V-shaped profile. So the fact that we finished above, which is near the VPOC for last month, this makes sense. We closed the week with our most traded price. We basically finished where we left off the end of the month, which was Monday. So this makes sense. We are in balance. Balance with bulls control. Same thing with here. Go ahead and remove these singles that was created from non-farm payroll. Other than that, we're just building volume from this weekly candle here, just filling in this gap. Really not too much to speak of. On both profiles, it doesn't appear that sellers want to trade at lower prices. They're getting good value for the amount of selling that they're doing here. So we'll go ahead and leave that there. Go ahead and save those. Look a little deeper. 138-minute candle, same information we were looking at for the NASDAQ. Essentially, just kind of looked above, saw what was all in here, came back down, didn't make a lower low, and then we just kind of scurried back up. Pretty simple day. Same love for the ES. We removed that zone here. We had all these singles that was here for the NQ and the ES. All these have been eaten up from the non-farm payrolls. So that's the reason this space here is blank. S&P 500 on the day, 65-minute candles. Doesn't this look familiar? Big ass candle. And then we're essentially not even flagging here. But again, this is just more balance. I mean, we're not having a true trend down day. We're not having a true trend up day. This doesn't count. This doesn't count. This doesn't count. You know what I mean? So we just went down and then we just slowly drifted our way back up. So it's really not too much to say about this here. Sellers really tried, but they ran into a wall, and then they had the beach ball effect, and then they just couldn't trade any lower. So I mean, once they reached about here, they just stopped. And then the same situation here and here. We won't belabor it. Same situation for the NQ. Sellers just didn't want to trade lower. Either they didn't want to or they couldn't. All right. Sorry, screen froze for a second. All right, and then we'll go ahead and finish up here with our 3-minute candles. Take a different approach here and see how we like it. So we had a gap up giving the non-farms payroll, and that's exactly what we are seeing here for the purple zone. So we can see the open, the close, and then the midpoint. Same gap up here. So you can see that we gapped up and we tested lower within the prior day's range, about that midpoint, and then we ended up closing at our highs. Looking a little deeper, I actually wanted to try something a little different. All right, hopefully this actually works. Okay, so this is the market replay. So I just want us to look at this in real time because I believe the context matters. So again, this is going to be non-farm payroll. So we end up having it already plotted. We shoot up and we come back down. You have this on a DOM, so you can look at this when time permits. But essentially, we just grind back up. I mean, this just makes sense. Given where we're grinding up, looking at the overnight, the fact that we had a drift up, pull lower, and then a drift up into non-farm payroll, and we're still trading higher. I mean, at this point, we're already trading well above the prior day's range, the high for the past 2 days, and starting to eat through this candle, um, those singles from Tuesday at the beginning of the month. So as we start, and we're already near the top part of the SOC zone, we build volume sideways and then squeeze lower, finding some support near the open of this FOMC candle, push back up. No real attempt to get back to this midpoint, or the VWAPs couldn't actually hold it. They were able to obtain this full session VWAP, but not really too much happened from there. So as we break through this FOMC, I'm sorry, this non-farm payrolls low, you would imagine we will see more continuation like this, right? And again, these are 3-minute candles that we're looking at. But where are we coming from, though? I mean, if we fall lower, what do we have under us? Nothing but possible support. And all those sellers that are here and here and here and here and in here. You know what I mean? So it's this. We can't expect this to shoot lower and lower. And I'm only mentioning this for myself because this is in my playbook to have a breakout stop below here. But just given the context of where we're at, I think it's important to understand that this isn't too advantageous for sellers. If anything, this is a good dip buying opportunity for buyers. So okay, cool. So that same situation, everyone sees like, okay, cool. We have a nice response, and then we do make our way to the RTH VWAP, and then we immediately start selling off. And again, you can look at this on the dime, when time permits. So okay, cool. So we ended up getting a new low, and again, we're still trading at the prior day's initial balance high. So this is not really this is good territory for the buyers. So again, we have our new low, and then clearly we have some responsive buyers, and they're pushing price higher every time that we come lower. And now we get to the point where we have a new low, and then we're continually pressing down, and we're not getting any kind of movement to the downside. So okay, cool, that's fine, shit happens. So we end up having an engulfing candle that closed, above this little consolidation range there. So okay, this is possibly my five smooth and average play where we reclaim here. Now we're pulling back into this range a little bit from this impulse candle, um, and we're curious if there's going to be any sort of follow through, any sort of response from the buyers. Okay, so we found our way back into the range. Okay, cool. So not necessarily getting in on this play here because we don't have enough information. I think it's important to us to see, okay, how far do we get? How much structure are we actually breaking? And you can see they almost get there and they just fail. Okay, that's fine. So cool. So we have some engulfing happening for the sellers. People are liquidating. Okay, it's got to be a new low that's going to happen, right? We're getting close. Okay, no low yet. No yet. No low yet. We're seeing the same behavior that we're seeing here, where sellers are not trying to sell below yesterday's midpoint. So for whatever reason, they don't want to come down here. Who knows? But I mean, they're not trying to get below that point. Okay. So we're trying to crawl our way back up. We'll see how far our buyers can get. Okay, so they end up closing above the 5 smoothing average again, but we're still well below the all the other DGPs, data generated prices, and we're right below the non-farm payrolls low. So, it doesn't really make the most sense for us to kind of buy here. So I'd imagine we need sort of a pullback to really kind of confirm what's going on. Okay, cool. So we have our bar here that tries to make a low here, and it looks like this is like a double same level low, and this is still respecting the top half of that candle, which is really the same thing that we're seeing on the daily. To be honest, is this not the same thing? At least in my head, that's the way I see it. So this would be the area where I'm more looking to enter. So of course I know it's not all peachy. In hindsight, of course you have more information, but this is just what makes sense here. And then it was just a lot of kind of moving around for the rest of the day. We're not gonna belabor it, but essentially just kind of just chop sideways and it's end up grinding up, especially here when we just kind of confirm that we are not trading below that non-farm payrolls range. So yeah, I mean, really the same thing here for the NQ. We're not going to go into the play-by-play of it, but we will just take a quick look. Same situation. We are well above the prior 2 days, and we're already eating through the majority of this range here from the non-farm payroll. This was a gimme. So as we came our way back down and then broke this range, clearly we had our one low here, and then we had two different attempts, two and a half, to try to get our way lower. So while the ES was making that double low, these guys were making a higher low compared to the original second leg here. First, second. Or if you really want to call it 1, 2, and 3, sure. But this candle was a higher low for this section here. So while the ES is giving their sign there and the NQ is kind of giving their reclaim here, as we're breaking through, it looked a little cleaner on the NQ on the ES, but same situation, same context. Chop sideways, and they ended up grinding higher for the remainder of the day. So I mean, those are really going to be my plays of the day. Ideally, the long, the short. I really can't justify too much outside of this breakout um, below this range, and this does make sense. It looks like it would have played out decently well, simply with the stop at the initial balance low. But I mean, you would have to be kind of quick to get out because it's just a lot of territory for the incorrect sellers. This is a seller graveyard down here, is what it feels like. Yeah, fairly simple. Perfect. All right, so we'll go ahead and wrap that up. I feel like I may have missed something, but oh well. So essentially, how did the buyers perform? Um, Not just looking at the end result, but looking at the fine details. I think they have a lot of sellers that are nervous to put on some puts and some sells into the weekend. But the first week of the month has started out pretty decent. It may not look. It looks like they were just kind of trading sideways, and that's exactly what's happening. But the buyers are doing a solid job of protecting their impulse candle that got us out of this 2 week balance range. So the last time I checked, when you have balance and you go down one side and you fail, and you have a continuation to the upside, and then we're balancing, and then we dip a little lower within this consolidation range, and then we're finding our way back up. I mean, this is essentially what all this is. This is essentially what all this is. So I think this is a just awesome continuation. This is a pleasure to see for sure. We can definitely have some pretty big sell days, next week possibly with CPI and, some other data that's coming out. Wait, is CPI? Let me double check, make sure CPI is next week. But before I get there, again, solid day for the buyers. We'll give the S&P 500 give them an 8 or a 9 because they also made a higher high to finish the day. And then for the NQ, still a bit of a lower high from what we can see here. So we'll give the S&P 500 an 8 or a 9, and then maybe the NQ a good 7 or an 8. But all right, we'll go ahead and wrap it up there. I did enjoy the little replay that I did. I hope that does make sense. Um, yeah, if you're watching, it'd be nice to have some kind of feedback on that. I would definitely love to see it. And then just to close it out, we'll look at next week. Again, just some light data Monday and Tuesday. Definitely some Fed speakers. We do have some minutes, but I doubt that's going to be, too much. And then we have our CPI that comes out on Thursday, which is something to be on the lookout for, and then the PPI as well. So yeah, let's have a good weekend. Take care of yourself, and I'll catch y'all next week.